Have you ever wondered if one of East Africa's greatest secrets was hidden from the history books? What if I told you that a captured king from Uganda may have left behind something more powerful than an army? A son who would grow up in another land, a son who would one day lead an entire nation for generations. Whispers have traveled across villages, towns, and cities. A story passed from one person to another. A story that links two East African most famous names, Kabalega and Kenyatta. Some people dismiss it immediately. Others listen carefully, because whether true or not, it is one of the most fascinating legends ever told. Tonight, we travel back more than 100 years, back to a time when Africa was changing forever, back to a time of kings, colonial armies, resistance, and exile. And by the end of this story, you can decide for yourself what to believe. The story begins with a king feared by his enemies and loved by his people. His name was Kabalega. In the late 19th century, the kingdom of Bunyoro stood as one of the most powerful kingdoms in the region. But a storm was coming. European powers were dividing Africa among themselves. One by one, kingdoms fell under colonial control, yet Kabalega refused to surrender. While others negotiated, Kabalega fought. When colonial forces advanced, he resisted. When they demanded submission, he answered with defiance. For years, he became a symbol of resistance. Stories of his courage spread across East Africa. People spoke of a king who would rather lose everything than kneel before foreign rule. But no warrior fights forever, and eventually fate caught up with him. After years of struggle, Kabalega was captured. The mighty king who had challenged an empire was now a prisoner. His kingdom was behind him, his future uncertain. As soldiers escorted him away from the land he loved, many believed the story of Kabalega was ending. But according to a legend that still survives today, the most important chapter had not yet been written. The journey into exile was long. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. The king passed through unfamiliar lands, under the watchful eyes of his captors, and somewhere along that journey, the story takes a mysterious turn. According to the rumor, Kabalega met a young woman. Some versions say she was a nurse. Others say she cared for prisoners. Some say she came from a respected family. Others say she was an ordinary woman living extraordinary times. History does not tell us her name. The storytellers never agree on the details, but they all tell the same central tale. Our friendship formed, conversations were shared, and slowly something deeper grew between them. Was it affection? Was it admiration? Was it simply two people finding comfort during uncertain times? Nobody knows. But according to the legend, when Kabalega eventually continued his journey towards exile, he left behind more than memories. He left behind a child who would grow up never knowing the full truth about his origin, a child who would spend his early years in colonial Kenya, a child who would witness the struggles of African people living under foreign rule. Years passed, the boy became a young man, and the young man became a leader. And as he grew, people noticed something unusual. He possessed determination, confidence, a powerful presence, the kind of qualities people often associate with great leaders, the kind of qualities that reminded some storytellers of another man, Kabalega. And that is where the legend becomes truly extraordinary, because the young man, according to the rumors, would later become known to the world as Jomo Kenyatta, the future leader of Kenya, the future president of an independent nation, the future symbol of freedom for millions. Was it possible? Could a forgotten meeting between a captured king and a mysterious woman have changed the course of East African history? Or was this simply a story created by people who saw similarities between two great leaders? Perhaps the truth has been lost to time. Or perhaps there was never any truth to find. Yet despite their questions, the legend survives. It survives because stories are powerful, sometimes more powerful than facts, sometimes more powerful than empires, and sometimes powerful enough to travel across generations. To this day, people continue to tell the tale, not because they can prove it, but because it captures the imaginations. A warrior king, a sacred child, a future president, and a mystery that refuses to disappear. As we continue this journey, we will follow the legend wherever it leads. Through colonial East Africa, through the rise of nationalism, through the lives of two remarkable men whose names became part of African history. And perhaps somewhere along the way, we may discover why this story continues to fascinate so many people more than a century later.